Welcome to the Quilt Show, everybody. On today's show, we have one of our TQS favorites, Edyta Sitar, and she's going to teach you a surprisingly easy way to do the 8-pointed star. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Quilt Show, everyone. We're in Bozeman, Montana, the wild, wild west.
We are. Oh, it's beautiful around here, Alex. And we've been up and down Main Street seeing the sights. But today we're in Main Street Quilting Company and Bernina, right here in the heart of Bozeman.
I would say this is definitely a destination quilt shop. It's just great. It's an old building, tin ceilings. It's just wonderful. I've spent some money.
It's easy to do when you come to a quilt shop. And today on the Quilt Show, we've got a special guest who is with us today because of her appearance on the Quilt Show.
Because of you guys.
Yes, because of you guys. We have to welcome back to the Quilt Show Edyta Sitar. Edyta, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Do you have any knowledge of how much trouble you caused us last time you were on the Quilt Show?
No idea. And
Well,
speaking of shopping, I did some too already. Yes.
Great
It was
stuff.
good trouble. The last time you were on the show, you spun out the idea to do one of your triangle exchanges.
Yes. Oh, we had so much fun. Everybody got involved, and 640 ladies got to exchange half square triangles, and I was so lucky to be a part of that exchange, and I decided to put them all into one beautiful quilt, and I brought that quilt to show you.
Well, let's look at the quilt. And this is it right here.
Yes, I did lay out my quilt as a little double star, broken star, and I also add a little bit extra appliqué on the outside. When I received the triangles, some of the names on the triangles were on the paper, so I transferred those into the front, so I have all my triangles signed, and I'm so excited I have my quilt finished. How are you doing on yours?
I'm looking at Ricky.
Well,
mine are still...
Yeah, I have a box of triangles, and I know Alex does, but I think our names are even in your quilt.
Yes, I have both of your triangles in my quilt, and there were some that I received from my friends, like me and my sister. They're not my colors, but I managed to use them in my quilt.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you can do with a scrap quilt.
750,000 triangles.
I think it was something like
Yes,
that. It was
yeah.
some incredible amount of triangles. And we had to have, the volunteers that put it all together were in like this church hall. They were sorting through all the triangles, trying to make sure they all got to where they were supposed to go, and they succeeded.
Yeah, big applause to those girls. This would have never happened without them, and they have put so much work in exchanging and making sure that everybody got the triangles. And I was just sitting backstage in Marshall, Michigan, receiving email and watching and thinking, wow, and just love being a part of it.
Well, that's why we have you on the Quilt Show again today. We want to see what you've been up to since you last visited with us. Let's look at the next quilt. I think you called it Chocolate and Cherries, or Cherries and Chocolate?
It's a common bride. By the nickname is Chocolate and Cherries because it's another quilt made from half square triangle exchange. After the big exchange, I call it.
The big exchange.
The big exchange. I did a smaller exchange for Valentine's with a bunch of my friends. Instead of giving each other chocolate for Valentine's, we did brown and pink triangles.
Love that.
That's
Yes, yeah, 30 of us exchanged 30,000 triangle, just a smaller group, in just 1 month happened, and a lot of the triangle made it into this quilt, what it's a common bride. That quilt also have strips from exchanges that I have done. I have not only exchanged triangle, exchange also strips, and in that one I made them into 8-point stars, low 4 patches, and the leftover strips managed to go into this quilt that is behind me. That is, I put together some panels, cut my diamonds, and end up planting a garden on peonies.
Yeah, it looks great. And if you look at each of those blocks, you see the peonies made out of 3 strips of diamonds, or 3 diamonds made of strips.
Yes, yeah.
And
So
then
you
the
have those.
applique. The applique looks great.
Yeah, I use my applique silhouettes. Those are 3 stencils that I have that I draw different shapes from it, and then just cut out some nice shapes, leaves, and plant some nice flowers with it. Yeah.
Now, I understand that your business is taking a twist and turn, that it's no longer just Edyta, but your husband's involved.
Yes, I'm so lucky that my husband loves quilting and decided to come on board and support me in what I like to do and be a part of it, and also take a bigger part in raising our family. What usually was, if you travel a lot, your children are like to have a one-parent home. So my husband decided to quit his job and help out at home. He still, though, teased me and asked me if I would cook him a dinner. And you see those? Yeah, the two left. It does not hold a spoon or a frying pan.
Well,
Perfect for sewing.
And you do make all your quilts, and they are fabulous. Now, let's take a look at this particular quilt.
This one is almost a padlock of all the exchanges that I have done. So you have the half square triangles right here from our exchange. So you see part of that quilt. I put them into a lovely trees. I did a 4-patch exchange. That's a great
look at
idea
that.
too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to hold that up
Yep.
just so we can see the
Right
half
there.
square triangles,
Right
and then right in the middle of it is the 4 patches.
4-patch exchange. Then smaller triangles. Those are left over from my chocolate and cherries exchange. A lot of them are also in the flowers. You have the shading of the pinks going down to the brown. Strip exchange, 9-patch exchange. I got some yellows. I had to fit them into the quilt.
That makes nice windows, yeah.
Perfect windows. So this kind of shows you a combination of all the exchanges.
And there's the strips.
Yeah.
The strip exchanges. So, oh my gosh, just all the different exchanges, and you can combine them into all sorts of things. And of
Yes.
course, again, the applique coming out the chimney,
Yes.
which I think looks
yes.
great.
Again, leftover from another quilt. So I'm almost reusing everything that it's happening, and every quilt has a little bit of a story. And this one is a quilter's home, and kind of house everything that I am all about.
Well, your
quilting.
quilts do have stories behind them, and this is a fairly new book of yours, right? Reasons
Yes.
for Quilts. And tell us about this book.
This is one of our newest book. I wrote it with Judy Friedman, and she's just wonderful to co-write with it. And we told story about quilts, reasons why quilts are made. Personal reasons, milestones, maybe political reasons that inspire quilters to express the feelings through quilts and talk about what happened in their lives or happened in nations. So.
See, and I think every quilt does have a story. It
Yes.
just sometimes it's a little more overt than other times.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't realize at the beginning, as we're cutting the fabric, the journey that the quilt would take and what story will carry. And for example, this quilt right
Now
here,
look at
it's
this.
a simple exchange, another fabric exchange. 92 ladies shared their strips with me, and I just managed to put it together into stars, and even the sashings, everything is from the exchange. The only fabric that I added to it was my border fabric.
Wow.
I want to point out one of the things that I love about your quilts is they're earthy tones, and then that blue, I love that blue.
Just put it onto the outside. When I receive fabrics from exchange, I always sort them out what I got, and I got browns and yellows, lots of greens, and a lot of beautiful blues, and sort them out and made it into this quilt. But the personal touch of the people that cut the fabric, that give it to me, really creates a community. And quilts are made by groups. Even if I put this quilt together, I give a credit to the group that exchanged with me.
Forever
for
and ever,
starting
you
it
know,
up.
community.
I think that's
Yeah.
really great. Now, is this something new for you? This is the kind of the star thing.
We're with every book, I focus on different things, and the star has been just popping up in my quilts, in like this one, diamonds and stars. And in my new book, Scrappy Fireworks, I concentrate on 8-point stars.
Well, and the exciting thing is that fireworks, scrappy fireworks, we're going to do that when we come back, and I think I get to learn how to do your technique.
Oh, I would love you
Yeah?
to.
It's an explosion of cloth and color. Stick around.
Welcome back to the Quilt Show, everyone. Edyta, I'm very excited about what we're about to do because it's really, it looks difficult, but it's not. You've made it so easy.
Well, I didn't believe it myself. When Grandma first taught me how to make 8-point star, I thought there must be other ways to do that, but I keep coming back to this way, and I hope to share it with you.
Grandma did it right.
Yes.
She
yeah.
did. Now let's look at the quilt behind you, because this is an 8-pointed star, and just tell us a little bit about it, because this is the fireworks quilt, right?
Yes, and this one is completely based on strip exchanges. So I exchanged fabrics with other ladies, 1.5-inch strips, and then I took them, sewed them together, and created this star. Anchor the colors with the appliqué in each corner, use my fabric for the background, and finish with Moa diamonds and Moa stars in the border.
And the border is really wonderful too. And you said all of those fabrics were from an exchange.
Yes, and the rules of 8-point star, this basic 8-point star, will apply to this size star or smallest star. So I'm so excited to show you how I do it.
And that's what I want to see. So let's
Yeah.
get right into it. This is from your book, Scrappy Fireworks Quilts.
Yes.
And
Yep.
the cover girl is behind us there.
Yes.
So I hope that everyone that will check out this book, but tell us the simple basics of putting the 8-pointed star together.
What I like to start with it, I choose for our star today, I chose 2 color fabrics. So we see the difference between the diamonds. And what I like to do is I press the strips together. This strip is 2 3/4. I cut it. And like I said, I will press it together, prepare for cutting.
And you say it sticks better together
Yes,
if you press
yeah.
them together.
Yeah, and if you use best press, even more.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a really nice tip. You can cut diamonds 2 ways. One with templates, or you can use rotary and a ruler. And in this case, we're gonna use our ruler. We're gonna place our ruler right with the bottom of the strips. Let me go on this one, so that way
Okay.
you see how I was doing that. I take my rotary and I make my first cut. I move this to the side, and now I'm gonna slide my ruler down, making sure that the 45-degree line is still laying nicely in the bottom of my 2 strips. And there, if my strip is 2 3/4, I have to have 2 3/4 from this area to this area, and cut. And I keep cutting like this, making sure that I have beautiful diamonds.
Okay, and then you're just going to yield as many as you can from that unit,
Yes,
right?
usually out of 20 inches you get 4 diamonds. It always depends on what width of the strip you're cutting.
And I'm guessing you're not wanting to fuss with these too much. Once they're
No,
kind of
no.
together, you've cut them,
You
don't want to
them-
be taking
no.
them apart.
Yes, you want them just laying beautifully together, and I lay them in front of me just like that, preparing them for my sewing. That was going to be the next step. They are stuck together, the one color with this one, ready to go, and I take a pencil.
Now, I'm assuming this is the edge we're going to sew on.
Yes.
This is going to run
Yeah.
through the sewing machine
Just like that.
this.
So right away, I lay them the way they're going to go into my sewing machine. A lot of times I'm being asked, how do I get my stuff done so fast? Because from A to B, I prepare myself, all my work just as it should go, and that way I don't waste time and don't have to turn things
Yeah, a
upside
little
down.
bit of assembly line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. And we will do chain sewing and kind of an
Okay.
assembly. I'm gonna take my ruler and I'm gonna match it up with the edge of my fabric right here, the
And that's a
bottom
1/4 inch?
edge. Yeah, it is important that this line is slightly below the edge of the fabric to accommodate the width of the pencil, and I'm gonna mark a little line here, so that way if I start sewing from this point, I come up to this area, stop and back stitch.
Okay, so I'm just going to hold this up just a little bit, and if you'll point to where you just did the line.
Yes, right here, I drew the line right here, and
And
I'm
we're gonna
going to
sew.
start sewing from here and go all the way down.
And back stitch at the line.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's going to be important that we start all the way at the tip,
Okay.
right there
no,
at the tip.
No need to back stitch there at the beginning.
No,
Just
later
stitch.
on, this is going to be almost like a basting for us, so we create a really nice point. So start sewing from here. Here it is where we have to stop and backstitch to lock it up. This is going to create an opening, and we don't want the pieces to come apart later
All
on.
right, so you mark all 4 of them.
Yes, I prepare all 4 of them, and if I'm making 20 stars, I will prepare all sets like that, ready to go,
Ah, that's
because
great.
I love sitting and sewing. As soon as we're done with that part, we're going to go into sewing, and I already prepare a little set right here.
Oh, look at
Look
that.
it's
Yeah,
a little
it's like
chain.
yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yeah. I saw my first diamond, stop, back stitch,
Okay,
went
let's
for
start
my
back up there again. The first
yeah,
diamond.
right here, started all the way to the line that we drew, stop, back stitch, and I went to the next one, start sewing, stop, back stitch, starting again at the tip, next one, stop, back, and so forth. And this is my first set. And another set, and another
That's
set,
great.
and another set. You know us quilters,
Look
if
at
you
that.
make one cookie, you want to make dozen.
Absolutely. All right. All right. So now are you going to cut those?
Yes, I'm gonna take a scissors and clip them apart, and they are ready for the next step. And what is super important, and Grandma always remind me, lay the pieces front of yourself and push your seam allowance towards left and finger press. You don't want to touch this with the iron because we cut bias and the iron would change
Distort
that.
it.
Yeah, so all of them I lay this way, and just with my fingers I push it, and I'm going to be ready for my next step. Yep, all
Yep.
4 of them. I take 2,
Okay.
place them right sides together, just like this, right sides together, and nest this seam right here. Look how nice this is nesting right here.
Because they're going in opposite directions.
Yes.
That's easy.
Yeah, and prepare again. I'm gonna start sewing from here straight down. I need a line, so I take my ruler, mark my line, and then I'm ready to sew half of my star.
And then you're going to backstitch again at that.
Yes.
Because you're not sewing all the way to the end of
Exactly,
that one. Okay?
exactly. And I did one for us right here where I started on the top, stop, and backstitch, and this is going to be our first half.
Yeah, look at this, everybody. Look at
Yes.
that's already looking
Yeah.
great.
But before we
Right
go there, super important housekeeping. So take a pair of scissors and clip bunny ears right here and right here.
Sure.
So if you do not clip those, you're not gonna get a really nice good point in the center.
It's
so
extra bulk. It's not needed.
No, exactly. So clipping those is important. And again, from the back, seam allowance needs to go towards left. So just pulling apart gently, and with my fingers, I'm gonna push this down, and I have my first half. This is my other half. I already pushed out the seam allowance for this one. And now we're gonna put 2 halves together.
Now this is where I think most people will start to panic.
Yes.
Because everybody wants the center of their star to look great.
Yeah, and how
Yeah.
do we find them? So Grandma says to me, X marks the spot. And notice this.
This really is your grandma's trick.
Yeah, this is one of the things that she taught me right at the beginning, and have worked for years and years for me. Wow. So right now, if you look at clothes and you're sitting right in front of it at your sewing machine, you're gonna see a thread right here and a thread right here. And this is X marks the spot.
Ah, the treasure.
The treasure. This is the place that you can take a pin, put it through, and come out on this side right. Look at, I'm right at the X where marks the spot.
Because you've got the same X on the other side.
The next thing I would do is go to my sewing machine, start sewing from this point to this side, staying away 1/4 inch away from this side right here, again marked it, stop, backstitch.
Okay, before you turn it over, I have a question with this pin. I know this pin is just standing up there right
Yeah.
now, but really, how do you pin that?
I just keep my pin this way, so it's holding my spot, and I take it to my machine, lay it down, I pull this, hold it with my finger, pull this pin out,
And
and
put
I
the
put
needle
my
in.
needle down.
Okay, so the pin's not staying there, because
No.
sometimes I feel like if you put the pin in,
Then
it
it shifts. No,
Yeah.
it's gonna be only there. So I kind of hold these 2 pieces together, put the needle back in that spot, and that will hold it for you.
Okay, and and you'll have the same marked line
Yep.
that with your ruler, so you're only sewing this half.
Yes.
Okay, then what?
Only sewing from here, stop, backstitch, flip the whole unit up, and starting 1/4 inch a little bit further down, because we want to overlap in the center.
Okay, so
the
this time we
stitches
don't
are
have
real-
to start in the same little spot.
No longer in the X. We want to start a little bit above that, start sewing, stop backstitch, and we have our 2 halves sewn together. And let me fold this so you get to see it. Look, the stitches are overlapping right here. We sewed
Wow.
it, and now when we open the star, We're gonna push all the seam allowances
Wow.
the same
and
way.
Look how
Yeah.
tidy that is.
Yeah.
Do you
And
have to pick anything out there?
sometimes you do, but most likely, if you have done the housekeeping and kept your threads nice and short, when you grab the center and when you pull it opposite direction, it will open right up.
It just opens.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And I like this because it almost based the center for us as we were working on it, and now I can open it up, and it guarantees for me that I get a nice center.
Well, I'm going to brag on that
Yeah.
center. Let's take a really close
thank
look,
you.
everybody. I mean, seriously. I mean,
Thank you.
that's easy. I mean, it's what you're doing is easy. I think what a lot of us try to do with stars can be really challenging, and we
Yeah.
don't get these centers. So those are all great tips.
Anything that helps us achieve a nice center, I think it's important. And the more we add into our quilting basket, the experiences hopefully gives us great results.
Okay.
But we're only halfway through. So now I started us on a triangle, but let me show you the fun part.
Okay.
When I set my background, because now we need the background pieces, and we have cut 4 squares for the corners. So we
Right.
have 4 of them. And then we also need 4 triangles. And the triangles, I cut it from a square.
Let's
Yes.
move this over
Yes.
just a little bit so you can have
Yeah.
the space.
So right here, I took a square and then cut it to 4 quarter square triangles. It is important that the bias are right here, not right there, so we don't have a
Right.
bias on the outside.
The straighted grain
Yeah,
needs to be
yeah.
there. I'm looking at this fabric, and I wasn't for sure at first if that was a little potato, but I'm looking at it really close, and I'm realizing it's a palette of paint.
Yes, it's
How did that
yeah.
happen?
It's one of my newest fabrics that it's coming out. It calls Paintbacks, and it's a quilter's treasure to paint and create and enjoy like a little kid.
Yeah, and look at these fabrics. These are your new fabrics.
Yes.
All from the paint box line. That's a
Yes,
lot
yeah.
of new fabric.
Oh, I'm so very lucky that Moda always allows me to have a nice group, and there are batiks and printed fabrics that will go together.
Okay, so now the moment of magic, everyone. You
Yes.
don't want to miss this. Here we go.
So now, what I like to do, I take my star, I fold it in half, and I almost consider like fold a book, close a book.
The back of the book is closing.
Close,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't work the other way when
Okay.
you open the cover. No, you have to close the back cover. I take one of the tips and I pull it down. And look at the shape right here I
It's a
have.
triangle.
It's a triangle. So I'm gonna cover with a triangle. I'm gonna put a triangle right over. I take my pin and I slide my pin, and as I come to this bump, that's the
Yep.
fold under there, I'm gonna gently pin it down.
Wow.
That's it.
Okay.
Now this is the fun part. Grandma always said, one day at a time. Don't worry about the whole project. Don't worry about putting your border on if you did not finish the blocks yet.
Yes, okay.
So one step at a time, starting right here at the top, right here, I will sew it down, stop, and backstitch.
Yeah,
And
because you
now-
can't keep going or you're sewing stuff together.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna hold this, take my whole star, flip it to the back, and prepare the next side to sew, and I will start from here and finish it up.
So you'll do your little start with your back stitch and
Yeah.
go all the way to the end.
And this is something different that I like to do. This is almost funny that I do that, but when I sew, my sewing machine doesn't provide me with a locking stitch. So what would be very convenient when I'm starting right here. So what I do is I start sewing, I make 2 stitches, lift my needle and a foot, and go back to the beginning and just sew it over. It's almost like I locked it up, because sometimes it's hard for us to start someplace, go back, and go forward.
Right.
So yeah.
And I'm just going to show, there's 3 of these that are already completely done.
Yes. So let
Let's
me
take that one out,
yeah.
and look how beautiful those areas look. Okay, then the final step is
the final step.
squares.
It's going to be the squares. So for 8-point star, always triangles will go first, then squares the next. And again, fold it in half, close the book, and pull one of the points. And what do we have? A lovely little
square.
square. Take a square, cover it up. We're gonna start from here, straight down to our little pin right here, back stitch, lift this whole thing up just like that, flip it back, and then again finish sewing by going where we have finished before. So from this area down
Off,
and we're down.
and opens up.
Yeah, it opens up. And what I like to do from this star, you can tell, push your seam allowance towards the star. That way it looks like it's floating onto
the
the background.
background.
And if you do start with the triangle, then the squares will come in, and again, it will give you perfect transition points on the outside.
That's
So-
great. And the back looks as good as the front. I
Thank
mean, the
you.
workmanship is fantastic. So, all right, you can, now everybody, all of that is a miracle to me. Just setting those triangles and squares in, I think that's great stuff. Let's look at this next block that you've got, because it doesn't always have to be a solid piece of fabric.
No.
You can do your strip
Yeah.
exchange.
Once you know the basics of an 8-point star, you can change your diamonds into 3 strips and creates a low spin. Maybe you want to make log cabins as your background and set it in. Or if you would like to, you can make MOA strips and create this beautiful star. And this star is based again on a strip exchange. So you're relying on others to cut the fabrics for you and share with you. And you should never complain about what you get. But sometimes when things don't work and you have a diamond, and for example, notice here, my diamonds did not match. Maybe was my 1/4-inch seam allowance.
Maybe it was
yes.
somebody else's strips they sent to you.
Never know.
Yeah, never know.
So if things don't happen the right way, let's take to another star and replace the every second diamond with a freshly, beautifully cut fabrics, and we benefit because we don't have to match, but also we're anchoring some of the scrappiness.
I think that's great. Great information.
Thank you.
And that was patchwork. You've got some applique that you're going to teach Alex when we come back. And I understand that there's a surprise that's only going to be available for TQS Star members. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Wow, that's good stuff.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
Welcome back. I really love what you just taught Ricky.
Oh, thank you. I enjoy spending time with him.
The lesson is listen to grandma, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Now you're going to teach me a whole new concept with applique, with what you're doing now, and it all is about this quilt here, for starters, right? Tell me about this quilt.
This is one of our newest appliqué block of the month, and this quilt called Spring Bouquet. And what is so special about it, it's based on all my favorite appliqué shape. And last time when I saw you, we talked about it, how I draw my appliques and I use my stencils, but I went a little bit further with it this time. Took all the work away, drawing, tracing, and fussing and cutting. Nope, I had all your shapes beautifully pre-cut in a little packs, ready to go, color coordinated, all done by laser. So all of them are laser cut. All that you have to do, just play with them.
I was worried. I thought maybe you're sitting there with your little scissors doing your thing.
No, no, don't have time to do that anymore. I want to make my quilts, I want to have fun, I want to paint with fabrics and enjoy the stitching and laying out the pieces.
So other than the background, that entire quilt is in there.
Yes, completely laser cut, all in it.
Okay.
And I brought a little sample of a package. In this case, I have just a few leaves and a flower in it. You're gonna need a background to applique to it.
So that doesn't come in, no?
No,
Okay.
the background you choose. So in a package, you get all the pieces. What you do is you start laying out your pieces, and you're welcome to lay this leaf. What I do is I crinkle the edge, is separate from the paper, and it's a steam seam too, so it's lightly sticky. And now I
Edyta,
can
what do you mean you crinkle the edge? Do that again for me.
Oh, I always have the paper up, and I just crease it.
Oh,
like this.
nice.
Do you see? And that way it separates, so you don't have to do anything else. You take it and you place it where you want it. Once you finish your block, you can then lift it up, see, oh, yep, that's exactly what I wanted. If you are pleased with it, then you go ahead and press it. If not, you can peel it off, move the pieces, look at it again, and then you're ready to press.
Now, as far as pressing goes, do you have any tips with that?
Yes, I do. It's super important that your iron is not too hot. So setting on cotton is number one. And also your ironing board has a crucial place in the pressing. it cannot be the silver cover ironing board. It has to be nice cotton, and my preference is piece of plywood, wrap with a piece of bedding, and a piece of muslin.
Nice.
That's the best ironing board. So that's what I do. I place my pieces right on it, press it beautifully, and I also use a simple T-fall iron where it's not metal, so it's not as abrasive. It presses beautifully. Once you have your block press, even if you're not happy with the layout, you want to add something, you can always do that. And in this case, I brought a little friend that likes to fly from one block to another. And you're gonna notice this in my quilts, my little bird. And it's not all done yet. You can always add or color coordinate it. So if you wanna, you can do that. Once you press, then we're ready to sew.
Okay, now that is a nice little small sample. How do you do this with your patterns for full size, like for the quilt?
In the kit, you're gonna find a pattern. Our pattern have a full layouts. So you take the pages of the layouts, and what I like to do is I stick them together, so I'm ready to go. Then I take my background fabric square, and I place it right over, just like this. And sometimes you cannot see the lines. So what I like to have, I desire beautiful light table, but you're not always gonna get what you want. So I make it do with what I got. I have a sewing table, you know, just a plastic sewing table, and I take a regular closet light, just like that, and I slip
let me
it
see
under.
that.
Look at this.
Okay.
So right there, when you slip it under, you can see all the lines. And if this is laying right on your table, it's just wonderful. That way you know where the pieces are going. So
Do you
can
draw
do
it,
that.
or do you just put the piece on it and fuse it?
I just put the piece right on it. Now, notice it, as we're moving, things are sliding, okay? To prevent the sliding, I also take those little clips that are normally for binding, and I clip, and I clip.
Rather than pinning it.
Yes, or you can call your girlfriends and ask them to hold your block in place.
You could do that too.
Yeah, but no, not always they're gonna have time for you, so you can clip it, and now you're gonna be ready to lay out your block.
Nice.
And in this case, this package right here is the block number 1, and always on the back it shows you which
picture of
block
it.
you have. Yeah, and I already have done some of the work for us, and I laid it right out. That is so much fun.
It's so pretty.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, really. Now, what about stitching? You have different approaches to this.
This is a fusible applique. We can, I like to finish the edges with a stitch, and you can do a zigzag stitch or a blanket stitch. And in this case, I'm doing a zigzag stitch. It's more invisible, and that's how this quilt was done.
Okay, well, what thread on this, please?
I have a nylon invisible thread from Orifil. Then I have a cotton thread in a bobbin. This will go on the top.
Okay.
Not in a bobbin, only on the top. Bobbin thread always would be the cotton thread. And now I'm gonna set up my tension on 0 because nylon thread likes to stretch.
Totally open.
Yeah.
Okay.
Different machines, different setting, but I set mine 0 to 1 usually,
Okay.
someplace there. And now cotton thread in a bobbin, and I start creating the zigzag. When you start doing zigzag, you have to pay attention that you're not bringing the thread from your bobbin. That tells you how low the tension needs to go. So if 1 is good enough, then set it on 1. My machine does the 0. Another thing that we need to remember is to change a needle in the sewing machine. And in this case, we have the Macrotex needle. This is one of my newest discoveries for this fusible applique, where really does help. It works wonderful. So I recommend put this needle in, nylon invisible thread, cotton thread in a bobbin, and a small zigzag. Now the position of your zigzag is super important. This is the edge of applique. You need to stay more 1 needle width into the background when you zigzag around the edges, so you don't fray your edges.
Very good. Because a laser cut is so clean for starters.
Oh, yes, so we want to keep this clean, and we don't want to fray the edges. But also for girls that like a little bit more detail, I have prepared, there they are, my new threads, and those are Orifil threads over the rainbow collection. It's matching to the colors that I use in the quilt, and you can use a blanket button stitch or satin stitch and enjoy it. Change the threads, pull them to the back. The beginnings and the end had to be pulled to the back, woven through it, then move on to the next color of a thread, finish your pieces, and it would add even more extra detail to it.
Okay, so now the quilt behind us is that beautiful star, but the applique.
Yes, it does prove that applique adds to a big project or small project. When you add a little bit to it, it's almost like a lace on a girl's dress or a little necklace to the piecing.
Nice. And even, this is a very simple piece,
Yeah.
but without the applique, I don't think it would quite be the same.
No, I don't think so either. I think the applique really adds it to it. And notice our little friend.
bird.
He's flying from one project to another. And let's see the next two projects. You get a clear
before and
view.
after, huh?
Yes, yeah. So without the applique and then with the applique.
Look at that. Oh my gosh.
But this brings something even more to the table. If you want to, you can piece the whole project, quilted it, even put your binding on it, and then decide, I'm gonna add the applique. And you fuse the applique and put a straight stitch, almost like a quilting stitch around all the edges, 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, and this called raw edge applique. So fusible applique can be done with a zigzag around the edges, or could be done with a raw edge where there is no stitches around it. And it's perfect for table toppers, staple runners. And I like to mix some things. I take
Love this. Let's open this up. Oh, this umbrella.
Isn't it cute?
Oh,
Let's turn
yes.
it this way so we can see it. And this particular package is from this quilt. And what it's fun about it, I add maple leaves right into it, fill up an umbrella. So you can get creative with it, and you can start laying things out and see how you want to clip and move and do things with the laser cut pieces.
Okay, now this one you quilted before.
This one, no. I actually made the whole top and then quilted it.
I got to stay on top
Yeah.
of you. You're got it all going on here. All right, this.
This one, I zigzag around the edges.
Let me open this up a little bit.
And then the quilt top was quilted, so I quilted it around it and popped it. If you quilt in the ditch, then the whole applique just pops it right up. So it's a wonderful example of how you can add to it a little more detail and how the applique brings it up a little bit more flavor to it. But let's talk about a special surprise that I did for you.
You did. We love you at TQS because you
Thank
started
you.
the big exchange, right? And when you were coming on, you said you'd make a special project for us.
Yes, just for you guys. I took my brand new fabrics from Paint Box and I created the stable runner. And then I appliqued a cute little package of leaves. So that way, with this visit to Montana and a little bit fall coming up soon, I don't want to say fall yet, but it is coming up.
Oh, it's out there.
Yeah, it's going to be maybe something you wanted to create.
Well, we definitely will have this on the project page, that's for sure. And we thank you so much for bringing all your creativity to us.
Thank you.
When the
Thank you for having me.
When the store found out you were coming, woo, they were very excited.
Well, I'm so happy to be here.
Well, talking about being here, when we come back, we're going to go there to your studio in Michigan.
And I welcome you with open arms and open doors.
So you want to see how she works and plays? Well, stick around. You're going to love her studio.
And my stash. Hi, welcome to Laundry Basket Quilts. Come follow me. I love to show you around. Come right in. This is my studio. This is where I spend a lot of time quilting and stitching and having fun. And this is where I store all my quilts. After many years of sewing and quilting in my house, in a dining room, living room, stashing my fabrics in a bathtub, my husband decided, that's it, we're moving this girl out. And 4 years ago, he built this wonderful place for me, and this is where I now get to play every day. So many times when I come from a trip, I unpack my suitcases right here in this area. This is where I usually pack and unpack things before I go. Then on the left, you have a little kitchen area, and I'm sorry, no food, only desserts, Moda desserts, jelly rolls, honey buns, layer cakes, of those Moda goodies you found here on a kitchen counter. If you follow me down, you get to see how I display and storage some of my quilts. I lay them on an old church pew right here, and many times I put them in a laundry bins, basket bins. Those are big commercial bins. I roll my quilts, stuff them right in, and they're ready to go. If I have to pack, I just pull it, fill up my suitcases, and go visit you. My fabrics I storage in my cupboard. This is my big stash cupboard, and my husband and my father-in-law built it for me. And larger pieces I usually put right here on the top. Smaller pieces I have it right here. I grab some fabrics, color coordinate them, and bring them right here to this side where is my cutting table. And this table my husband built it as well for me, so it's really special to me. If you come and follow me this way, you get to see more of my quilts. I hang them on a ladder, I hang them on a wall, I roll them, storage, display, and enjoy them in my studio. One of my favorite spots in my studio is this area where my long arm machine is, and her name is Millie. It's shortcut for Gemo. I got my machine a few years ago, and it was one of the nicest things I did for me. I love spending time with her, and me and Millie have a lot of fun quilting. You get to see a lot of the quilting books around here in my studio. I love reading quilting books and magazines, and have them everywhere on the shelves, on the chairs, in the bins, and constantly have fun looking through them and enjoying and learning more about quilting. So come follow me upstairs where I sew. This is where I spend a lot of time sewing. This is almost like my nest. I love this spot. It's nice and cozy. I have some antique quilts right here in the corner, and if you follow me down, you get to see my big stash. Yes, I know. This is the fabrics that I use to cut kits and prepare for classes and presentations. So this is the fabrics that I cut it right here on the tables. Those are plastic tables. I raised them up, made a little drape to cover the bottom of it, and enjoy cutting and preparing and getting ready to teach you. Many times when new fabrics arrive, I place them right here on the floor, all my new designs, and I look through it and play with it and decide on new project. Maybe some new appliqué, like I have it right here. My favorite things about my studio, I would have to say, is the skylights. Give me perfect light to color coordinate and match fabrics, my music, and also having you. So thank you for stopping. I'm so glad you were able to visit.
Wow.
Right, a barn, and I have seen lots of ways to store quilts, but I've never seen them in those oversized laundry baskets.
Well, I fit perfectly in my studio. Thank you for coming and visiting me.
Well, I say studio. To me, it's a McMansion. That's bigger than my house. How did you guys decide how to divvy up the space?
Well, it just kind of happened little bit by little bit and filled it up. I first started just with storing my quilts, me having fun place to escape from home, and now it's just full of quilts and fabrics and everything else.
That's great. Well, we sure appreciate you being with us today. It's been a lot of fun.
And while you were on camera with Edyta, I was like digging through your stuff, and I found this umbrella quilt. And I want to thank you for showering us with so much wonderful information.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for coming.
The fun never stops. I know that we enjoyed having you the first time, and this time having you back on the Quilt Show. Everybody's going to have enjoyed today. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to Main Street Quilting Company in Bernina for opening your doors to your delicious stores. I could set up shop here too.
I could too. Bozeman is a great place. Come visit it. And while you're out visiting, you have to remember as you're traveling, it's a new day
Every day. What an inspirational show today. We love having you on the Quilt Show.
And we understand you love Montana.
Oh, I absolutely love coming back to Montana. Exactly a year ago, I was here visiting a very small town, and when I arrived, I was kind of surprised, I have to say. A town of 300 people, 80 ladies were waiting for me to enjoy my quilting and have fun with me and treat me like I was coming home. So this is a special place to me.
I'm not surprised.
No, I'm not surprised either. And that's one of the things that we get in life is we get the stories. Of course, those of us that travel around teaching, we get stories. But in your book, Reasons for Quilts, which I want to just show one more time, this is a book about the stories.
Yes, the stories behind quilts, the reason why quilts are made, what drives us to the local store many miles to buy a piece of fabric, bring it home, cut it to little pieces, look at it and say, you know, that's not the right piece, I'm going back to the store. So the drive behind the quilts.
That's exactly right. Well, I discovered in the back a poem that you wrote, and I thought a great way for us to see some more of your quilts and just kind of put a bow on the show today is if you would just read the poem to us and let us look at some of your quilts.
It would be my pleasure. Endless take. Look once to see that quilt converse in visual rhymes that steal the breath, speaking to every possible sense. Awesome art, beauty immense. Look twice to hear them whisper stories of love, laughs, deeper dreams, of moments past, milestones shared, personal lesson, and journey dared. Look over and over and over again to discover life between the threads, making us warm and feeling secure. Reason for quilts will always endure. Thank you for having me.